Good afternoon or good
Good
evening, whatever. Yes, we'll just see the portion, last day's portion once more, and if we have time, we'll move to the new portion. Okay. So take page number 28. We'll read that portion once again: trait approach, type approach, and concept of personality. And then we'll finish it off. Last day we discussed the questions. Today we'll just read it up and finish. Okay, concept of personality. We'll start. Ashish.
The term personality often appears in our day-to-day discussion. The Latin meaning of personality, literal meaning of personality is derived from the Latin word persona, the mask used by the actors in the Roman theaters.
For Roman theater for okay, Amal.
For changing their facial makeup. After on the mask, the audience expect the person to perform a role in a particular manner. It does not, however, mean that the person enacting the given role necessarily possesses those qualities.
Okay. So it is like a mask. The persona is considered as a mask, and inside the mask there might be some other features or characteristics. But in the play or when it is used in Roman theater, it is kind of a mask which hides the inner part. Okay. So that is it. Now, for a lay person, personality generally refers to the physical or external appearance of an individual. For example, when we find someone good looking, we often assume that the person also has a charming personality. This notion of personality is based on superficial impressions which may not be correct. So, remember last year we learned psychology is not common sense, isn't it? Yes. So here also for a common man or for a lay person, we call them lay persons. What happens is they judge based on the outward appearance, but that is not true. That is not the exact personality of the person. If a person looks shabby on a particular day, we cannot judge that the person is a very irresponsible, very untidy person, isn't it? Maybe because of the circumstances that person has come like that on that particular day. Like maybe on an interview day this person is not dressed properly. There is the person has entered the interview room drenched in rain or something like that. There might be dirt all over the body. Maybe that person has met with an accident. We don't know that. We should not judge based on the outward appearance. Rather, personality is a very complex or it's a very dynamic phenomenon, or rather an attribute, a psychological attribute, and it should not be judged with the outward appearance. Then, in psychological terms, personality refers to characteristic ways of responding to individuals and situations. Both individuals and situations are characteristic ways. And also, it is enduring in nature, which means it's long lasting. People can easily describe the way in which they respond to various situations. Certain catchwords, that is shy, sensitive, quiet, concerned, warm, etc., are often used to describe personalities. These words refer to different components of personality. In this sense, personality refers to unique and relatively stable qualities that characterize an individual's behavior across different situations over a period of time. Underline that sentence. Refers to unique and relatively stable qualities. Relatively stable means it should be consistent over time. That's why we are calling it enduring. It should be long lasting over a period of time. If you watch closely, you'll find that people do show variations in their behavior. One is not always cautious or impulsive, shy or friendly. Personality characterizes individuals as they appear in most circumstances. Consistency in behavior, thought, and emotion of an individual across situations and across time periods characterizes her or his personality. For example, an honest person is more likely to remain honest irrespective of time or situation. That was the example that we discussed yesterday. Okay, and this might come as assertion, reasoning, and all. So mark that and keep. Examples are very important. Then, however, situational variations in behavior do occur as they help individuals in adapting to their environmental circumstances. Okay, again, this honest person might have to lie at some point of life to save somebody else's life. That is okay because that happens because of the circumstances. People might vary according to the situation. According to the situational factors, also people vary because of our situationism, which we learned in the first chapter. Okay, then in brief, personality is characterized by the following features. It has both physical and psychological components. That's important. Its expression in terms of behavior is fairly unique in a given individual. Like if you say that two people are, what do you call it? Very much narcissistic. Two people, two individuals, let's take the examples X and Y. They have narcissistic personalities, but the way they express their narcissism might be different. Okay, now if we consider two people with submissive personalities, we cannot say that both of them behave exactly the same because of the uniqueness in individual, because of the situationism, because of various other factors, because of genetics, because of their intelligence, because of their previous experiences, people might vary in the expression of their personality and how they behave according to their personality. Okay, that is the second point. Its expression in terms of behavior is fairly unique in a given individual. Then, its main features do not easily change with time, which means it should be long lasting, it should be stable. What should be long lasting? Personality characteristics should be long lasting and stable. Then, last point, it is dynamic in the sense that some of its features may change due to internal or external situational demands. Thus, personality is adaptive to situations. Personality is adaptive, but it is enduring. It's long lasting also. It is stable, more or less stable. Then, once we are able to characterize someone's personality, we can predict how that person will probably behave in a variety of circumstances. An understanding of personality allows us to deal with people in realistic and acceptable ways. For example, if you find a child who does not like orders, the most effective way to deal with a child will not be to give orders, but to present a set of acceptable alternatives from which the child may choose. Similarly, a child who has feelings of inferiority needs to be treated differently from a child who is self confident. For example, again, we'll take the same example. A child does not, or a person does not like orders. They don't take orders. So, what should be done is we'll give them options so that they have the freedom to choose from. Hmm? Like, maybe it is an adolescent, consider an adolescent or an adult, maybe of 20, 22 years. Okay, and there is a family get together, and all of them are discussing where to have the dinner at. Hmm? Where should they visit? Which restaurant should they go? So the head of the family is ordering the person, drive to this particular restaurant. We'll eat only there. So this person might not like it. But if they are presented with a few options, like there is this restaurant, or there is this hotel, or there is this cafe, which is very nice, so you choose any one of them, we can go anywhere. All of them are good. So that's their choice. So that'll be more convenient for them, isn't it? For a person who does not take orders, because they feel that they have the freedom to choose and it's their own will. They don't feel it as an order. Okay. So that's how we can use the knowledge of personality in real life. We can apply it in real life. Then several other terms are used to refer to behavioral characteristics of individuals. Quite often they are used as synonyms of personality. Some of these terms are given in box 2.1 along with the defining features. You may read them carefully to appreciate how they are different from the notion of personality. That is given in box 2.1, temperament, trait, disposition, character, habit, and values. You have to read that. Then, major approaches to the study of personality. Psychologists interested. You guys have read it already. That's why I'm going fast. Okay. Psychologists interested in the study of personality try to answer certain questions about the nature and origin of individual differences in personality. You may have observed that two children in the same family develop dramatically different personalities. Not only they look physically different, but they also behave differently in different situations. These observations often generate curiosity and force us to ask, why is it that some people react differently in a given situation than others do? Why is it that some people enjoy adventurous activities while others like reading, watching television, or playing cards? Are these differences stable all through one's life, or are they just short lived and situation specific? A number of approaches and theories have been developed to understand and explain behavioral differences among individuals and behavioral consistencies within an individual. That is between two individuals. What do we call that? What is the term used for that?
Individual difference.
I'm asking between two individuals or two or more individuals. That is a term we use it. And within the individual. Two related words.
Interpersonal and intrapersonal.
Interpersonal and intrapersonal. Yes. Interpersonal is between individuals or a group of people, and intra is within. Okay. So these theories are based on different models of human behavior. Each throws light on some, but not all aspects of personality. That is one of the major disadvantage of personality theories. Each of the theory throws light on a particular feature or a particular theme, but it does not cover all the different types of personalities. Okay. For example, in body humors, or if it is endomorph, ectomorph, mesomorph given by Sheldon. In all these theories, there is a typical explanation and description given, but all the type of personalities in the world are not described in that. Okay. There are even more combinations, but no such theory exists which explains all the personalities together. All right. Then psychologists distinguish between type and trait approaches to personality. Next sentence is very important. Type approaches attempts to comprehend human personality by examining certain broad patterns in the observed behavioral characteristics of individuals. So it tries to understand human personality by examining certain broad patterns in the observed behavioral characteristics. Broad patterns are important here. In when we started learning intelligence, we learned two approaches. One was information processing, the other one was psychometric. Similarly, in personality, we have trait approach and type approach. Okay, mainly. Then one more approach comes, that is the interactional one, which signifies the role of situational factors. Okay. Then, each behavioral pattern refers to one type in which individuals are placed in terms of the similarity of their behavioral characteristics with that pattern. In contrast, the trait approach focuses on the specific psychological attributes along which individuals tend to differ in consistent and stable ways. That is, individual tends to differ in terms of a single trait. So based on the varying degrees of that trait, we might differentiate people into different category or different traits. That is the trait approach. In type approach, if we find certain qualities, certain features, certain characteristics, then we find a pattern. So we put that pattern, everybody who belongs to that pattern, into a particular type. For example, a person who is very much in a hurry, always has anxiety, feels there is very much short of time to do their works, and has a lot of tension all throughout life. These are certain features. This is a pattern, isn't it? And we group them into a particular type. Which type is that? Anxiety, tension, worry, short of time. Which type is that? Type A. Okay, that is how we find it. We find a behavioral pattern. This is how they behave. And with all these features, we put them into a particular type. It's like sorting these marble chocolates. Have you seen that? Different colored and shades, but some will have similar features. Stone-like chocolates. No? It looks like marbles, or it looks like the gemstones, but they are actually chocolates. Never mind. You understood type approach and trait approach, no? That's enough. Okay. In contrast, the trait approach focuses on the specific psychological attributes that I already told you. Now, for example, one person may be less shy, whereas another person may be more. So it is based on that shyness factor that we are dividing people into different traits. Like one person is less in shyness, one person is more in shyness, one person might be moderate in shyness. Okay, so that is a trait. That is a trait approach. That is what the trait approach does. Then one person may be less friendly, whereas another person may be more friendly. So based on the varying degrees, we put them into different traits. Then here, shyness and friendliness represent traits along which individuals can be rated in terms of the degree of presence or absence of the concerned behavioral quality or trait. So trait can be considered as a small feature or a characteristic, more or less the same. Okay. Then the interactional approach. This is the third approach. The interactional approach holds that situational characteristics play an important role in determining our behavior. People may behave as dependent or independent, not because of their internal personality trait, but because of external rewards or threats available in a particular situation. So when these external rewards and what do you call threats are mentioned, you have to relate that to interactional approach, because they are all situational factors. Okay, that's not a trait, isn't it? External reward or external punishment, external threat is not a situation. It's not a personality factor of a person. It's not a trait of a person. We cannot consider that as a behavior pattern. Also, it's something that we get from the outside environment, from the context. So that is related to a situation, the situation in which we are in. The cross-situational consistency of traits is found to be quite low. The compelling influence of situations can be noted by observing people's behavior in places like a market, a courtroom, or a place of worship, and so on. Again, I told you, a person who has definite personality, they might change their behaviors according to the situations. That is given more importance, or that theme is given more importance in this approach, that is interactional approach. Clear? Okay. Now, type approaches. As we explained above, we have time, no? The class is still 5:20. Okay. As we explained above, personality types are used to represent and communicate a set of expected behaviors based on similarities. Efforts to categorize people into personality types have been made since ancient times. The Greek physician Hippocrates had proposed a typology of personality based on fluid or humor. Body fluid or humor is also right. Okay, so Hippocrates was the one who proposed a typology, personality types based on the body fluid or humor. And if a question comes, Hippocrates' theory comes under which approach? Type approach or trait approach? What will you write? Type approach. Okay, because it is a typology of personality given by Hippocrates. Then he classified people into 4 types, that is sanguine, phlegmatic, melancholic, and choleric, each characterized by specific behavioral features. Then in India, Charak Samhita, a famous treatise on Ayurveda, classifies people into the categories of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha on the basis of 3 humoral elements called Tridosha. Okay, that is also very important. It's highly likely that questions might be asked from this. Each refers to a type of temperament called Prakriti, that is basic nature of a person. Apart from this, there is also a typology of personality based on the Trigunas. Okay, the first one was based on Tridosha. This is based on 3 gunas, the 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. So Sattva guna includes attributes like cleanliness, truthfulness, dutifulness, detachment, discipline, etc. Rajas guna includes intensive activity, desire for sense sense gratification, dissatisfaction, envy for others, and a materialistic mentality. Then tamas guna characterizes anger, arrogance, depression, laziness, feeling of helplessness, etc. You have to study that with some mnemonic, otherwise you'll confuse, or connect it with someone or something that you know and study. Okay, so sattva, rajas, and tamas, these are the three gunas. And vada, pitta, kapha are the three doshas. Okay, how will you remember that? Yeah, vata, pitta, kapha. Haven't you heard someone say all those terms? When you have cough, generally we say no kapha. That is not a positive thing. It's a dosha. So connect it and learn. That comes under the dosha. Three doshas. Three gunas are sattva, rajas, and tamas. Okay, all the three gunas are present in each and every person in different degrees. You have to note that sentence. I think yesterday we discussed that. All the three gunas are present in each and every person in different degrees. The dominance of one or the other guna may lead to a particular type of behavior or a particular type of personality as such. Within psychology, the personality types given by Sheldon are fairly well known. Using body build and temperament as the main basis, Sheldon proposed the endomorphic, mesomorphic, and ectomorphic typology. So according to Hippocrates, it was fluid or humor. But according to Sheldon, it was the body build and temperament. Okay. Now, the endomorphs are fat, soft, and round. I told you endo. Learn it with O and the balloon. Fat, round, and soft. Then by temperament, they are relaxed and sociable. Yeah, it again, when we consider balloon, we can relate to social functions, isn't it? Birthday parties or the other. So sociable is a word related to it. So relate and learn. The mesomorphs have strong musculature, M and M. Mesomorphs and musculature are rectangular with a strong body build. They are energetic and courageous. Obviously, if they don't have proper body build or proper musculature, they won't be much courageous to fight against the people that come, isn't it? Yes. Then they are energetic and courageous. Then the ectomorphs are thin, long, and fragile in body build. They are brainy, artistic, and introverts. That is the lean people. Then let us remember that these body typologies are simple and have limited use in predicting behavior of individuals. They are more like stereotypes which people hold. That's why I said in the previous portion, no such personality theory exists which explains all the theories or all the personality types or traits. Okay. So Jung has proposed, it's Carl Jung. Carl Jung has proposed another important typology by grouping people into introverts and extroverts. This is widely, here it is not extroverts, it's extraverts. Please note that, okay? Introverts and extraverts, Jung. This is widely recognized. According to this typology, introverts are people who prefer to be alone, tend to avoid others, withdraw themselves in the face of emotional conflicts, and are shy. This doesn't mean that they are lonely and sad. Okay. Introverts prefer that. They don't like the company of others. They like their own company. They enjoy their own company. And I have seen some people who pity the introverts. Like, it's like, oh, they don't have any friends. They don't have so blah, blah, blah. They are not sociable and so and so things. But actually, they are really happy being on their own. That is why they are maybe too much indulged in a book, or maybe too much involved in doing a research, or he listening to music and so on. Okay, so that is one type of personality. Then extroverts, on the other hand, are sociable, outgoing, drawn to occupations that allow dealing directly with people, and react to stress by trying to lose themselves among other people and social activity. So when these extroverts have a problem, they usually share with the others. They get into social activities so that their stress is reduced. But introverts is just the opposite. They try to deal with problems alone, and they don't like much communication. They don't mingle with others much. That's what they like. Okay. Then, in recent years, Friedman and Rosenman have classified individuals into type A and type B personality. So, type A and type B was given by Friedman and Rosenman. Okay, that was the beginning of these ABCD typologies. Okay, and the two researchers were trying to identify psychosocial risk factors when they discovered these types. People characterized by type A personality seem to possess high motivation, lack patience, feel short of time, be in a great hurry, and feel like being always burdened with work. You can consider the example of a person who is going for work. Okay, like that person is running late for work. The person has too much work to do. The person is very much motivated to complete the work on the same day itself. So again, they are carrying the files, always rushing around. So imagine the, visualize that and learn. That'll be easier. Type A. And such people find it difficult to slow down and relax. People with type A personalities are more susceptible to problems like hypertension and CHD, that is coronary heart disease. Hypertension and coronary heart disease. That is because these blood pressures and all increase too much for these people. Obviously, when we are in stress or when we are under a time limit, when we are always in a hurry, obviously we feel that pressure inside us, isn't it? So the blood pressure will increase, heartbeats will increase, and so on. That's why they are having hypertension and CHD. The risk of developing CHD with type A personality is sometimes even greater than the risk caused by high blood pressure, high cholesterol levels, or smoking. So, because of these high BP, that is genetical problems or other organic problems, the high cholesterol or smoking, because of these also CHD can occur. But it is found that there are high chances that people with type A personalities will have these CHD and other related heart disorders because of their personality. Okay. Then, opposite to this is a type B personality, which can be understood as the absence of type A traits. Absence of type A traits means they are very much relaxed. They are not very much achievement oriented. They don't rush things. They try and plan things very well, do things on time, and so on. That is type B. Okay, the exact opposite of type A. Then this typology has been further extended. Morris has suggested. So first two were given by Friedman and Rosenman. Type C was given by Morris, and which is prone to cancer. Individuals characterized by this personality are cooperative, unassertive, and patient. Patient is easy to learn. That term is easy to learn because there is a terminal illness given. Then cooperative, related with C and learn. Unassertive. Unassertive means, what do you mean by assertiveness?
The ability to say no to a thing that the person really dislikes.
Not only saying no, but politely and efficiently expressing whatever we feel or whatever we think to other people. That is assertiveness. And one example among them is saying no to what we don't really want. Okay. Yes. So these people, type C personality people, are less assertive, which means they are unassertive in nature. They don't, they are very much submissive, cooperating to everything. They are very submissive. They don't show dominance. They accept everything that comes to them. If heaps of work are given to them, obviously they'll again do that. If stale food is given to them, they'll have to eat it. They are very unassertive. They won't react much. Okay. Then they suppress their negative emotions, that is anger, and show compliance to authority. Compliance means they agree to the authority figure in front of them. More recently, a type D personality has been suggested, which is characterized by proneness to depression. That is also very easy to relate and learn. Type D, depression. That's it. So personality typologies are usually very appealing, but are too simplistic. Underline that sentence. They are very appealing. They make sense, but they are very simple. Human behavior is highly complex and variable. Assigning people to a particular personality type is difficult. So this can come as an assertion reasoning question, isn't it? Yes. Human behavior is highly complex and variable, and assigning people to a particular personality type is difficult. The second sentence can come as an assertion. Third, first one mentioned can come as a reason. A relationship among them can be asked. Yes. People do not fit into such simple categorization schemes so neatly. That is why trait approaches came in. Okay, now trait approaches we'll quickly see, and if we can, we'll begin with the other set. Okay, trait approaches. These theories are mainly concerned with the description or characterization of basic components of personality. They try to discover the building blocks of personality. Underline that. They try to discover the building blocks of personality. Human beings display a wide range of variations in psychological attributes, yet it is possible to club them into a smaller number of personality traits. Trait approach is very similar to a common experience in everyday life. For example, when we come to know that a person is sociable, we assume that he or she will not only be cooperative, friendly, and helping, but also engage in behaviors that involve other social components. The trait approach attempts to identify primary characteristics of people. Okay, we assign the primary themes to people. Like when we say type A, we cannot make sense of it, isn't it? Like for a common person, when we say it's type A personality, can we understand what that is? Or if we say this person has a sanguine personality, this person has a melancholic personality, can we understand anything about it? No, isn't it? Based on different behavioral patterns, we have put them into certain types. But when it comes to trait approach, when I say that you are very sociable, then that means you'll be very friendly. If I'm making you get involved in a group activity, obviously you'll be talking to others, you'll be initiating activities, you'll be very much friendly with others. I know that. I can predict that, isn't it? So this predictions is possible in trait approaches. A trait is considered, underline that, a trait is considered as a relatively enduring attribute or quality on which one individual differs from another. So just because you saw enduring, please don't go and write personality. This one is a trait. The last part is important there. One individual differs from another. They include a range of possible behaviors that are activated according to the demands of the situation. To summarize, traits are relatively stable over time. They are generally consistent across situations. Their strengths and combinations vary across individuals, leading to individual differences in personality. A number of psychologists have used traits to formulate their theories of personality. We'll discuss them, some important theories here. Okay. Now, tomorrow, can we have a test till this portion? Do you have any other test? Yes.
We have test on
Fashion studies. Tomorrow you have. So what about Friday? No tests. No. So we'll have a test till all pod straight theory.
Friday we have economics.
Economics.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, then leave it. In the class time, shall we have a revision test? This portion you have already studied, no? Okay. So tomorrow or Friday? When do you want? Or maybe I'll... This is a very long chapter, that's the problem. I will see. I'll tell you. Okay, so let's see all pod straight theory now. Take page number 32. Aishwarya, can you read?
Alport trait theory. Gordon Alport is considered the pioneer of trait approach. He proposed that individuals possess a number of traits which are dynamic in nature. They determine behavior in such a manner that an individual approaches different situations with similar plans. The traits integrate stimuli and responses which otherwise look dissimilar. Alport argued that the words people use to describe themselves and others provide a basis for understanding human personality.
Underline that. That's a very important sentence. If you see this such and such person argued that this happens, please mark it in a different color and keep. Okay, because I have seen so many questions. They'll give the statement and ask who proposed this or whose opinion is this. Which theorist gave this idea that so and so happens. This is Gordon Allport here. Argued that the words people use to describe themselves and others provide a basis for understanding human personality. That is their own personality. Then continue.
He analyzed the words of English language to look for traits which describe a person. Allport, based on this, categorized traits into cardinal, central, and secondary.
These are the three traits: cardinal, central, and secondary. Yes.
Cardinal traits are highly generalized dispositions. They indicate the goal around which a person's entire life seemed to revolve. Mahatma Gandhi's nonviolence and Hitler's narcissism are examples of cardinal traits. Such traits often get associated with the name of the person so strongly that they derive such identities as the Gandhian or Hitlerian trait. Less pervasive in effect, but still quite generalized dispositions are called central traits. These traits, example warm, sincere, vigilant, etc., are often used in writing a testimonial or job recommendation for a person. The least generalized characteristics of a person are called secondary traits. Traits such as likes mangoes or prefers ethnic clothes are examples of secondary traits. While Allport...
Wait a minute. Prefers ethnic clothes. What is that? What psychological attribute is that? Or what dimension of an attribute is that? Prefers ethnic clothes. Interests. Okay, I told you if there is a preference mentioned, that is related to the interest of the person from the first chapter, remember? Yeah, preferences are related to interest. So these preferences will come under secondary traits. So the major general disposition or the general features will come as the cardinal traits. Then the lesser ones will come as the central traits. Then even less the small likes and dislikes or preferences and interests will come under secondary traits. That is the order. Okay, like Mother Teresa, she was known for what do you call peace and love and care, isn't it? So some people ask if you're caring too much for other people, if you are a peacemaker among people, and they'll call, are you a Mother Teresa? Or she has Teresian characteristics, Teresian personality. Okay, that is again a general disposition that is coming under the cardinal traits. Okay, and Mahatma Gandhi, that is non-violence, then ahimsa, all these features are related to Mahatma Gandhi. So the people who follow this will come to be known as Gandhians. So, similarly, people who are narcissistic, very much dominant, very much power-seeking, all these people might be called as Hitlerian. You know that film, Hitler, isn't it? The film's name, Malayalam movie. Mammootty Sara. Yes, Hitler Madanguti. Again, people call him Hitler because he has certain features like that. He is very dominant, very arrogant, and very authoritative and all. Isn't it? That is again related to the cardinal traits. And central traits is related to the warmth, the friendliness, the sociability, how much diligent, how much sincere they are, how much honest they are. That's all related to the not secondary, the central characteristics. Okay. Now, if I again, whenever we discuss interest, I tell this: I prefer coffee to tea. That is a preference. That is an interest of a person. That comes under. That is very less important. That might not be known to everyone, isn't it? So that comes under the secondary traits. And which type of trait? Is it cardinal, central, or secondary? Which is used for the job applications, for writing reference letters and all? Central, the second set. Okay, that's it. While Allport acknowledged the influence of situations on behavior, please listen, the last paragraph. While Allport acknowledged the influence of situations on behavior, he held that the way a person reacts to given situations depends on her or his traits, although people sharing the same traits might express them in different ways. When we dealt with the traits in not only traits, the personality in page 29, I told you the expression of personality might be different for different people, isn't it? Just like that, the expression of traits might be different for different people according to situations. Even though there are two people with the same degree of dominance in them or the same degree of Gandhian features in them, they might behave differently in different situations. Okay. Then Alport considered traits more like intervening variables that occur between the stimulus situation and the response of the person. This meant that any variation in traits would elicit a different response to the same situation. That means slight variations in the trait itself can lead to different behaviors in different situations. That's it. So I think we can wind up Cattell's theory, Eysenck's, and psychodynamic. We'll see in the next class. Okay. Can you read psychodynamic alone and come for the next class? Or should we do that next week? Next week, no? Because it needs more attention. That's why. Okay, then for tomorrow, Cattell's theory, Eysenck's theory, that's also very easy. Then Carl Jung's theory, that is page 37. Carl Jung's theory. That's enough. 3 theories. You have some test tomorrow, no? So 3 theories around Cattell, Eysenck, and Carl Jung. Okay, read and prepare questions and come. All right. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you. Absentees. Sana, Amalke, Saji. Then who else is absent? Elvina, are you all right now? No response. Okay. 2 are absent. No, Ashish was already there. Anybody else who's absent? Sneha was there in the beginning.
Sneha, I was about to say Sneha.
Yeah, Sneha was there in the beginning. Okay, fine. Thank you.